Dad left me our house when he died, but my mom kicked me out to live with her new family. 15 years later, I tried to take my house back, but they're threatening me, so I brought cops. I'm a 24-year-old guy, and let me begin by saying my mom kicked me out just to impress her new husband. Okay, maybe kicked out sounds a bit extreme. Let's say she moved me out of my own home and sent me to live with my grandparents on my dad's side. All my fond memories are tied to my dad, at least until he passed away. We lost him when I was just 7. As a kid, it crushed me. I was really close to him, and seeing him inside a coffin tore my heart apart. I still remember that moment clearly. It still brings me pain to this day. While I was still grieving, my mom appeared with another man and told me to call him Dad. I was like, absolutely not. Maybe I was being stubborn, but it felt completely wrong to start calling some new guy Dad just a few months after my real father had died. After that first meeting, I kept seeing the man in my mom's bedroom, and it was honestly hard to watch how fast she had moved on. She didn't even wait a full year before she brought my dad's replacement into our home. I wasn't ready to accept that. I had just turned 8 when they planned their big fancy wedding. It was surprisingly extravagant for a second marriage, but whatever. Not my concern. She left me with my grandparents and went off on her honeymoon. A whole month went by and she didn't come back. I kept asking my grandparents when she would return to take me home, but they didn't have an answer. Then one day, she finally showed up. I was thrilled to see her. I ran to hug her, but then I saw she had brought all my belongings with her. She had come not to take me home, but to drop me off for good. To say I was heartbroken would be an understatement. I ended up staying with my grandparents until I finished high school. They were wonderful, and I was actually happy living with them. My mom would pop in now and then just to say how much she loved me and cared for me. Sometimes I'd ask her, "If you love me so much, why did you leave me here?" She never had a real answer. She'd brush it off with something like, "Your grandparents are getting old. They need help with groceries and taking out the trash." Much later, she finally admitted the real reason. She had given my room to her stepchildren. Her husband, Bill, had 2 kids from a previous relationship, and after the wedding, they all moved into our house. My mom had chosen her new family over me. Naturally, I started feeling bitter toward her. Eventually, I just stopped trying to connect with her. After high school, I moved out of my grandparents' place, though I still visit them often. They were my real lifesavers. They raised me when no one else did. If it weren't for them, my childhood could have been completely destroyed. Now I'm 24. After spending a year working in marketing, I decided to start my own business. To raise some capital, I considered leasing out my house. Oh, if I forgot to mention it, here's a twist my mom and her new family didn't see coming. The house they live in? It actually belongs to me. That's right. My dad left a will before he died, and he thoughtfully handed down everything he owned to me, including the house. I was just a kid when his lawyer read the will after the funeral, but I still remember the look on my mom's face. It was clear she wasn't happy. Later, I learned she made several attempts to contest the will, but failed every time. My dad had been extremely thorough. He left everything to me, but the condition was that I couldn't sell the property until I turned 21. Until then, no one could touch it. My grandparents believe Dad saw this coming, that he knew Mom might try to manipulate me if he didn't lock things down legally. And honestly, I think they're right. Last month, I called my mom to tell her I was planning to lease the house, but she didn't answer any of my calls. Then, during a visit to my grandparents this week, I brought it up again, saying I wanted to rent it out to earn some extra income. Their reaction felt off. When I pressed them, they warned me I'd likely face serious resistance if I tried to evict Mom. Turns out, her stepdaughter is now pregnant and dating a runaway teenage boy. To make matters worse, Bill recently lost his full-time job and now works part-time at a convenience store. Financially, they're in a rough spot, but so was I. I'd just quit my job and was counting on that property to fund my startup. Things got pretty dramatic from where I left off. Like I said, my grandparents had warned me that Mom and her new family were going through a tough phase and that they might resist leaving the house. At first, I planned to just notify Mom of my intention and give them a month's notice to sort things out. But after hearing about their situation, I softened up and decided to offer them 3 to 4 months instead. Since Mom wasn't picking up my calls, I went to the house to speak to her in person. The place didn't feel like it used to, and neither did she. There was a cold energy in the air. Maybe she had already figured out why I was visiting. When she saw me at the door, she forced a smile and gave me a half-hearted hug. Keep in mind, we hadn't seen each other in almost 10 years. Yeah, She stopped visiting me after I hit my teenage years. I had grown distant and bitter toward her, and honestly, who could blame me? Even after all those years, she didn't ask how I'd been, or show any real interest in my life. Her whole vibe screamed, "You must be here because you want something." The people-pleaser in me smiled and said, "Oh no, nothing serious. Just thought I'd check on you. It's been a while." She nodded and said, "Sure has." Then silence. 5 whole minutes of dead air passed before I stood up to leave. It was completely uncomfortable. I didn't feel welcome in the slightest. Along with Mom, my pregnant stepsister was also home, and the glare she gave me made it pretty clear. She thought I was there to stir up trouble. In that moment, I decided to forget the whole idea of reclaiming the house. I began exploring other ways to raise the money for my business. But then, Mom did something that crossed every boundary of decency and self-awareness. Last week marked the 15th anniversary of my dad's passing. My grandparents held a small prayer gathering at church. Since I was in town, I decided to organize a simple memorial, feeding the poor and giving gifts to underprivileged kids. I also invited friends and relatives for the prayer. I emailed Mom the invitation too, but she never replied. I later checked and saw that she hadn't even opened the email. Since it was the first one I'd ever sent her, I figured maybe it went to her spam folder or something. So I showed up at her house again. This time, Mom wasn't home. My stepsister Brenda answered the door. No hello, no greeting, just a sharp question to my face. "You again? What do you want this time?" I told her I was there to talk to Mom. She fired back, "After the way she spoke to you last time, do you really think she wants to see you again?" She said it so bluntly that it stunned me. I barely registered her words before blurting out that I had just come to invite Mom to a memorial service for my dad. She laughed in my face and said, "That was like 100 years ago. You're still holding on to that? Move on." I snapped back, "Excuse me, he was my father. You have no right to comment on that." She rolled her eyes and disappeared into her room. I sat there like a complete fool for a few minutes, then scribbled a note for Mom and left it on the table, asking her to call me. She called the next day. I told her about the ceremony, and she stayed silent for a few seconds before saying she wouldn't be able to attend because she had to take Brenda to a prenatal checkup. That hit me hard. I mean, she could have at least said she'd try, but no, she turned me down immediately, like it meant nothing to her. I responded with sarcasm, "Yeah, of course. They're your priority now. We don't matter to you anymore. Fine. Good luck raising that narcissistic daughter and her illegitimate kid." She blew up the second I said that last part. She screamed at me for using that word. I told her, why should I be polite to someone who disrespected me and mocked my emotions? To defend her daughter, Mom claimed her reaction was justified. "You can't talk like that about the dead in front of a pregnant woman. You're just as heartless as your father." And that's when I snapped. I screamed at her that she had no right to speak that way about my dad. "If there's anyone heartless here, it's you. Look how you're talking about your dead husband." But she just shouted back, "Your father died 15 years ago. Get over it already." I started to say, "Sure, the way," but then it all came out in a rush. "The way you did it within weeks. Or maybe even days. Who knows? You know what? Don't even bother coming. My father wouldn't want your prayers after seeing who you really are." I hung up right after. That same day, I called a lawyer and began the legal process of serving her an eviction notice. It took the lawyer around 15 days to verify my dad's will and officially send the notice to Mom. As expected, she completely lost it when it arrived. Apparently, she never imagined I'd go that far. She thought I was trying to get revenge just because she didn't attend Dad's memorial service. I laughed when I heard her frantic voicemail, and then I blocked her number. When she couldn't reach me directly, she showed up at my grandparents' house. I wasn't there at the time. Yeah, I'm staying with my grandparents again while trying to get my life sorted out. My mother pleaded with them to convince me to take back the eviction notice. My grandparents, being the calm and kind-hearted people they are, didn't throw her out. They simply told her the truth, that it was my house, and I had the right to do whatever I wanted with it. Of course, she didn't take that answer well. She actually had the audacity to blame my grandparents for raising me into some entitled brat. Seriously, what was she smoking when she said that? I later asked my grandma why she didn't say anything to my narcissistic mother. She told me, "We don't want to start anything with a woman like that." I said, "Well, I do, and now I'm not letting them stay in that house for even one more day." The eviction notice was served in accordance with the country's tenant laws. Even though they're not technically tenants, They weren't paying me a single dime in rent, and I've been the one covering the property taxes year after year, so from a legal standpoint, I was fully within my rights to kick them out immediately. But my grandparents are deeply religious. They talked me out of taking such drastic action. They asked me, for the love of God, just give them 1 month to find somewhere else. There's a pregnant woman in that house. We can't toss her out into the street. I sighed. Honestly, I didn't think she needed help. She was just as toxic as her mother. But my grandparents insisted, maybe she's made mistakes, but the unborn child hasn't. Don't punish that innocent soul. They finally convinced me to wait. I was ready to throw them out that very day. The next morning, I got a call from Mom. I ignored it, just like she had ignored all my calls weeks ago. She sent a text saying we needed to talk urgently. I told her to check my schedule and meet me at my grandparents' house during one of my available time slots. That didn't sit well with her. She replied with a long message, accusing me of trying to throw my weight around. What did I do with her 5-paragraph monologue? Nothing. That's right. I didn't even reply. Hopefully she got the message. I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. Throughout my childhood, whenever I cried or begged to go back home, she wouldn't console me. Instead, she'd scold me and tell me to stop acting out. She used fear as a tool to make me behave. To keep her from getting angry, I would hold back tears and sit quietly. But after she left, I'd go sulk in some corner of the house for hours. Not anymore. Now it's her turn to sulk, but unfortunately for her, she won't even have a corner to call her own. So she finally came to meet me, and I made her wait, on purpose, for an entire hour. She grew restless. I told my grandparents to stay out of it. She kept pestering them, asking where I was. They just shrugged and retreated to their room. When I eventually walked in, she gave me a look like, "Where the hell were you? I've been waiting forever." But she didn't say it out loud. She just sat there with a blank expression. Most people in her situation would have tried to appeal to me emotionally, but nope, she stayed defensive. She opened with, "Okay, let's get started. I can't sit here all day. I've got things to do." I mumbled under my breath, "Oh, I'm sure you do. Finding a new place isn't easy." She shot me a dirty look and snapped, "What's this notice all about?" I replied calmly, "It's written in English. I'm sure you can read it. Or would you like me to read it out loud for you?" That made her absolutely furious. She threw the notice back in my face and shouted that she wasn't going to move out over some stupid piece of paper. After she finished screaming, I calmly told her, "Then let's wait and see what happens when you ignore a court order." She shouted back, "I gave birth to you. Don't you dare try to outsmart me. That house belongs to my husband and no one, not even you, can force me out." I said, "Surely a legal heir can." I was responding calmly just to push her buttons, and it worked. But the moment she referred to my dad as her husband, I snapped, "Really? You have the nerve to call him your husband when you skipped his memorial and said he was history? You don't deserve his house. You're nothing but squatters, and I'm finally going to cleanse that home of all leeches." She stood up, furious, and said she had been nice to me, but now I'd have to deal with her attorney. I laughed. "Be my guest. We've still got 20 days left. Can't wait to see what trick you pull next." But not without a battle. Like I mentioned earlier, I gave my mom and her family 30 days to vacate the place. She tried to twist the whole situation, play the victim, and gaslight me. I shut that down fast, and she stormed off. What followed was a circus of pure narcissism. Would you believe her stepdaughter Brenda came at me full force? She actually threatened to file a harassment case against me. She was trying to use her pregnancy like some kind of immunity card, acting like she could do or say whatever she wanted just because she was carrying a child. I told her straight up, pregnancy doesn't give you a free pass to be a menace. She even tried intimidating my grandparents until we showed her the outdoor surveillance cameras. I warned her, "Step foot on this property one more time and I'm calling the police." Then came my mom, rushing to defend her precious golden child. She accused me of mentally tormenting Brenda and said she'd sue me for it. I calmly replied, "Let the judge decide, based on our camera footage." That shut her up real quick. When intimidation didn't work, she changed tactics, started crying and claiming she'd failed as a parent. She even dragged my deceased father into it, saying it was his fault for dying so early and not raising me right. That pushed me too far. I told her, "If anyone deserves the blame, it's you, not for raising me wrong, because you didn't raise me at all. My grandparents raised me and they did an amazing job. You should be ashamed for abandoning me. Actually, I'm grateful you weren't involved, because if your parenting skills are anything like what I see in your stepdaughter, I dodged a bullet." Yeah, I brought up Brenda's teenage pregnancy too. I know it was crossing a line, but I was angry. Naturally, she exploded. I realized I'd overstepped, so I kept quiet after that. I told her I didn't want any more arguments. I just wanted my property back. They'd been freeloading for years, and now I needed the house. I explained that I had left my job and needed the rental income to start my business. She lost it again, saying I was throwing them out just to let strangers live in the house. I said, "The strangers will be paying rent. If you're willing to do the same, you can stay." She blew up again, screaming that I was dragging money into a family matter. I said, "What family? You tossed me out like trash and barely checked in on me. Birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, you were never there. And when you did show up, it felt like you were doing me a favor. What kind of mother acts like that?" "Oh right, the kind you are." She tried every trick: manipulation, guilt-tripping, rage. But when she realized I wasn't budging, she stormed out. Now, if you think they packed up and left after that, you're wrong. Enter Mom's deadbeat husband. The guy finally stepped into the drama, and he did it in the most ridiculous way, by sending me a threatening voicemail. "Dude, you don't know who you're messing with. I'll deadlift you and make you beg for mercy. One punch to your face and you'll forget all about that house. Show up at my door again and I'll knock you out." This guy's massive and loves flexing it. I don't know much about him personally, but my grandparents warned me to steer clear. He's a known bully. Sure, maybe he is, but he's also dumb as hell. He basically gave me evidence on a silver platter by threatening me on voicemail. I didn't reply. I wanted someone bigger to deal with him. The law. On the day of the eviction, I went straight to the police station with my lawyer and filed an official complaint. We had all the necessary documentation and evidence in hand. My lawyer requested that an officer accompany us during the eviction, but they were reluctant, said to just call if things got out of hand. Still, we didn't feel safe confronting them alone. A little cash under the table changed their minds, and they agreed to come with us. When we arrived at the house, me and my lawyer, Mom, Bill, and Brenda came out swinging, verbally at least. They started yelling all kinds of abuse. Bill, that loser of a husband, even came out waving a hockey stick. But the moment they spotted the police car behind ours, he quickly backed off. The officers showed them the court-ordered eviction notice and told them to vacate. They were so sure they'd scare me off that they hadn't even packed a single thing. They begged the officers for another month. The cops looked over at me and I said, "Absolutely not. Not after the threats they've made." They immediately shifted gears and began pleading on behalf of Brenda's pregnancy to buy more time. But I stood firm and said, "No." The cops gave me some weird looks, like I was being cold-hearted, but I was just following the legal process. No one could say otherwise. They tried bargaining for a single day. I told them flatly, "You've got 3 hours." Their eyes were full of hate, but I didn't care. Bill even tried to bump shoulders with me, giving me a glare with bloodshot eyes. One of the cops snapped, "Keep moving, less staring, more packing." We left after that. The officers instructed them to hand over the house keys at the station, where I'd later collect them. We had to give the cops another small facilitation fee, but honestly, it was worth every penny. Who wants to waste time dealing with such toxic squatters? My lawyer advised me to file a restraining order against them, just in case they came back later to harass me, or worse, harass future tenants. And with how unhinged they were acting, it was a smart move. We got the order, and the police handed them a copy, warning them of the legal consequences if they violated it. The shame on their faces was priceless. So finally, I have my house back. I've already put it up for lease, and I'm hoping to lock in a good deal soon. With that income, I plan to launch my business and get my life moving forward. No more wasting time with these thick-headed parasites. This will probably be my last update, unless they come back and try some more nonsense. Thanks for reading and supporting me through this insane journey.